Hello everyone, I'm Ankit and you're watching StudyIQ IAS English. In our today's video, we'll try to understand whether assassination of a foreign leader done by any country during a war, it is legally justifiable or not. Now, the reasons why we are discussing this is because last week, when US and Israel undertook a surprise attack on Iran and they targeted Syrian Iranian leadership, it led to death of their supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Now, although many critics have dismissed this declaration of war as illegal because US government did not take permission either of their US Congress or of United Nations Security Council, but killing of a foreign head of state raises several important legal questions. Now, the notes which I will be using in our today's discussion, you can download them by going to a particular Telegram channel called as ATS Live. And while you're at it, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel also. Now, in modern era, it is extraordinarily rare for death of any foreign head of state during the times of war because it has not happened as frequently. For example, I can remember one instance back in 2003 when US has declared a war on Iraq. They targeted their then head of state, President Saddam Hussein. But eventually that strike did not lead to his death, so that question was not asked back then. So openly trying to kill a leader of another country, this raises several important questions. First, let us understand whether this is permissible or not. Now, generally it is accepted that whenever two countries are at war, targeting the other country's military commanders, they are lawful targets. So you can usually engage with them, you can usually kill them. But when it comes to civilians or civilian leadership who do not have any military function, those are off limits. So you can't kill any of those civilian leadership who are not involved in day-to-day warlike matters. For example, health ministers, education ministers, etc. But things become a bit more complex when we are dealing with head of states. For example, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, he was civilian in nature and he was not a uniformed personnel of the armed force or the military of the Iran. Similarly, the US president also, he is a civilian. But at the same time, these head of states, they also discharge a very important function, that they are commander-in-chief or the supreme leader of their armed forces. And this hybrid status makes things a bit more difficult. So there is a justification that if there is a civilian in power who discharges control over the military, especially if they are the commander-in-chief of the military, they are legal targets, because one way or the other, if you interpret it, they are either civilians who are discharging military control, or they might be the head of the military itself. So this allows killing or engagement with any leader, even if he is a civilian leader, especially if they have a military control. Okay, so this might make killing of a head of state legal. So does it mean that killing of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is legal? Let us find that one out. Now, the complication actually begins that this declaration of war, or this war, started with the kind of strikes that led to death of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Now, as per UN Charter, which we have discussed in a separate video, there are legal justifications for use of force, provided if the United Nations Security Council authorizes it in order to maintain international peace, and second, if a country is acting in self-defense in response of any armed force attack to it, which is provided in Article 51 of the UN Charter. Now, the strike itself, as you can understand, it violates the UN Charter because first, there is no United Nations Security Council authorization and this attack happened unprovoked, right? So this violates the UN Charter. So even if these kind of targets who are legal targets whenever a war is declared, but if the war itself is illegal, how can you justify killing of a head of state even though he discharges certain military functions? So from that logic, killing of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei legally, it is illegal. Right? Now let us understand what about targeting of former leaders. There are multiple reports, although they have not been verified, that a former president of Iran, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, has been assassinated in a similar kind of a strike. First of all, legally this is much important and very clear. First of all, he is no longer the form of government, or he was no longer the part of government. He had no military role and he did not participate in hostilities. Therefore, killing him or targeting such individuals who might be before important in the politics of Iran is legally not justified. Now let us talk about who should take the responsibility for it. And there is called as doctrine of responsibility. It states that any state knowingly who has helped another state to commit or to violate an international law, then both of the states are legally culpable. So by that logic, killing of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, although it was unlawful, United States knew or intended to help Israel in order to achieve that function, which violated an international law, making US equally culpable as Iran in death of the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Now let us talk about whether there is an assassination ban in US in place or not. Now there was a plot done by CIA during the times of Cold War which intended to kill many such foreign leaders, and the public it found out because of the Church Committee investigation. At that time, the then President of United States, Gerald Ford, he issued an executive order which banned such assassinations to take place, and this presently becomes the part of Executive Order 12333. Now, this ban or this executive order states that no person employed or acting on behalf of the United States government shall engage in or shall conspire to engage in assassination of a foreign leader. But the important thing that you have to understand is that this order does not define what kind of killings would be approved in this particular legislation. So this creative interpretation has been undertaken multiple times in order to justify killing of any important functionary. For example, before the and after the authorization of Congress in order to take actions against Al-Qaeda in 2001, the executive branch, which is led by US President, they undertook a creative interpretation. They said that this ban, which has been imposed by executive order, does not bar the US military to undertake targeted killing of a high level terrorist leaders, right? And although Al-Qaeda operatives, they do not form or they are not leaders of a separate state, so killing of them might be justified. Now, this matter becomes much more complex, especially in 2020 when Trump ordered the airstrike which killed General Qasem Soleimani, who was head of the IRGC Quds Force, right? So he was a member of the armed force, but at that time US and Iran was not engaged in war. So does this killing is legally justified or not? So how did US government justify his killing? US government said that there was a Department of Justice memo which stated that Qasem Soleimani was responsible for orchestrating years of operation that killed many armed force personnel of United States. So according to this notification of the Department of Justice of the United States government, this interpreted Qasem Soleimani as one of the terrorists, and that is why US justified his killing, which allowed it to circumvent the restrictions which have been imposed by the Executive Order 12333, which bans the assassinations. Understood? So this is the legal position. To summarize, killing of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei legally is not justified because, first of all, the kind of war that US and Israel have declared on Iran, it does not qualify the definition of justifiable use of force. And if this would have been the justifiable use of force, targeting any civilian like the supreme leader who discharges of military control would have been legally justified, right? Now, before we move on to a question that was asked in the UPSC exam, there is an important thing that you need to know. Resolution batches, the admissions have started for March batch, which is expected to start on 7th of March. You can still take admissions to these batches, provided if you use the code ATS Live, you are going to get maximum discounts. Now, you must be wondering what is the benefit. First of all, you get live classes for all the subjects, and you will also get access to recorded lectures. So suppose if you miss out on any live classes, you can always watch them later at your own convenience. Similarly, when you study, you naturally have multiple doubts. To solve those doubts, we provide you access to one-to-one mentorship, and the mentors are allocated the day you take admissions in our courses. Similarly, to practice your learning, you get access to mock tests for both prelims and mains, and all of these are exclusive benefits offered to students who take admissions in foundation courses. And as I said, if you use the code ATS Live, you are going to get maximum discounts, and batches are available for students looking to give exams in 2027 as well as 2028. Now, this is the kind of question that asked in the UPSC exam in 2018. Which one of the following reflects the most appropriate relationship between law and liberty? You can understand liberty does not mean absence of law. Liberty, you can only exercise liberty when others are restrained from using force against you, right? So therefore, law and liberty have a symbiotic relationship. If there is a law, there is a liberty, and that is why if there is no law, there would be no liberty. And this is a line of thought that was popularly introduced by a political thinker called as John Locke, and the answer of this question is option B. Understood? So this is how UPSC asks a question. It tests your fundamental understanding of legal aspects. Now, to download the notes which I used in our today's session, you can go to this Telegram channel, and this is all from my side today. We'll see each other again quite soon. Please have a very good day.